Somebody knew about AV here. I got to tell you pretty honestly, it's not me. So
my CISP sense.
This is all part of the plan. That is intended. It's for show.
I don't know where this falls into the CIA triangle.
No, leave it. It's not supposed to be making noise, as we have global noise. So some quick announcements. It pains me to ask you this and to have to mention this, but should you be inclined to draw dick butts on stuff, could we make it, okay, I have a few requests. A, could we make it not hotel property? B, could you not get caught on video doing it? And C, could you not have your friends retweet photos of you doing it? So just in case it's not clear, if the hotel really wants to throw you out, there's only so much I could do when you post your own photos of you drawing dick butts. Okay? Just so we're all on the same page. You know? So, now that that's out of the way, I hope you guys had fun at the last talk or Sam's hacking workshop. I hope you guys are visiting all the villages. This is a conference, which means you should be totally ignoring whoever's speaking currently and obsessing over something in the hands-on areas. At least that's my understanding of a conference. So we have Hardware Hacking Village, Lockpicking Village, Hacking Village, which is home to a couple of CTF contests, as well as a chill-out room if you just want to hang out, play some games with your friends. So I hope you find something that you enjoy out of all those. Up next, are we ready for the video or you need a minute? We're rolling. Okay, cool. Up next, we have CyberVis.
Thanks for that. What the shit?
For those of you playing from home, we have crowd signs that say Team Cyberheckle, which really warms my heart. So CyberVis is here to teach you about cyber attacking.
This should be vodka.
Well, somebody fix that for him, please.
It should be vodka, but I'm glad it's not.
Okay, I promise open mic is almost done. We have CyberVis, and if you're wondering why that came about, check Dan's Twitter for the full, unless he deleted it, I guess, but somebody preserve it for posterity. He'll be talking about attacking OSX for fun and profit. Give him a big round.
Holy crap. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys saw, but like, for those of you on the Twitters, DG updated my, what do you call it, abstract, so it doesn't match the one in the program guide. The one in the program guide is the one I submitted. The one on the website's not. Anyhow, so I did a thing last year for a media outlet called Fusion. And it involved me doing some fun stuff, and the media that was released had very, very little of what I actually did in it. They had like all the sound bites of all the fun stuff that the general population can absorb, non-technical folk, and like zero technical jargon. But I went through, like, I kind of bent over backwards to build this thing, and they didn't talk about it at all. So I'm like, oh well, I should talk about it and then give it away. So effectively, like, who here does attack stuff, pen test stuff? Stuff. Who here has had to deal with Macs, right? So like, what is there for Mac? Like, there's a little bit of Metasploit for Mac, right? There's the Python interpreter. Like, Java interpreter used to be a thing back when Java was alive, but like, what? Like, there's nothing for Mac basically. So I made a thing. So this is I'm just a shouty guy on the internet. I run a small security company called Phobos Group. I have stickers, like Doom-related stickers if you guys like stickers. But basically, that's me. That's actually me from CCDC 2 years ago. It's really hot in there. Yeah. So yeah, I've actually officially hacked like that maybe twice, and then I was like, okay, it's 800 degrees. So I'd like to introduce this thing I built. I'm calling it Duct Tape C2. because it's terribly written. I'm not a dev, and it's basically a pile of shell scripts that do some interesting things. It's effectively, anybody ever heard of a tool called Platypus? 1, 2, okay. So Platypus is really amazing, and you can do some really, really evil things with it. So I did, right? So also the other thing that sort of dawned on me was the hacking team and the NSA kind of totally got it right. Watching people's desktops and watching people's webcams and doing keystrokes is way, way more juicy than like any shell you'll ever get. Like if you sit and you watch somebody's desktop, like every 3 minutes you get a picture from the desktop, you know everything. Like you don't need a keylog even, but it's a good time. So some of you will say, like, what are you doing? There's already some stuff that can do Mac stuff. Like why are you redoing work? Well, Metasploit, like I said before, has some stuff you can do some, like when I was doing this engagement, like none of the post exploit modules worked, which really sucked, so I had to do absolutely everything by hand. Like Core Impact is really expensive and it's made for Windows. Immunity, like really same Windows. There have, like Empire, which is a Python version of the proper spelling of Empire, came out like 3 weeks ago, and all of this material is from last year. And Puppy came out in like September or October of last year. So at the time when I was doing this gig, like these two tools did not exist. And even then, these two tools aren't surveillance toolkits. They're basically like post-exploit, like persistence and exfil type tools. So Fusion basically came to me, and their exact words were, I want to see how badly you can fuck up my life. The journalist I was talking to was doing a bit where he got me and another person from the security community to come and basically throw everything we had at them. And when they came to me, it was like a week before DEF CON last year. And I was like, seriously? Well, okay. So at first I did your typical sort of evidence gathering. I started looking the guy up. I found his blog on Squarespace. I found out that he was running basically an entire Apple stack. He had like Mac, an iPhone. He used Google Apps and used two-factor authentication. And this guy flat out asked me to hack him. I know he lives in the San Francisco Bay Area, and he probably heard about me from our mutual friend Kashmir. So I went to work and I started looking stuff up, and I found, okay, the typical things. You know, there was an address and a whois, and then like I looked at mail headers and I looked at Google Maps and I found some simple stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, there's not a lot going on here. It's all more or less public information. There's nothing particularly useful or interesting that I could get. And when you're attacking a person or an organization that's using a pile of Macs, like there's not a lot to go on. Like you can't MS 08067 to Mac. You can't like use SMB to move laterally. Like you can't use GPO. Like all the fun Windows stuff that we use to just own Windows inside out all the time doesn't exist for Macs, like at all. And this guy is like, this is a one machine shop. It's not like they're running Casper or any other tools that are used to do management and control of like a fleet of Macs. It's literally everything is a one-off, and that makes it really tough as an attacker. Pretty much the only way that you can get in is you can either social them or you have to have ODE, and I got no ODE. So checkpoint reached. I'm like, all right, so where are we at? He's a journalist. His blog is on Squarespace, like Mac phone, Google Apps, 2FA. He knows I'm coming. Fuckery. Like the only option I have is to do like some crazy social engineering thing. So I did. I was introduced to a tool called Platypus, and what Platypus does is it will take any script or binary or app and turn it into a .app file with an icon. Like that icon in the top left there, you can take anything and you can dump it into Platypus and say like, oh look, it's an installer, but really it's doing a whole bunch of shady things. So like in this case, what I had to do was just straight up run Python interpreter. I registered a domain that was like one letter off from Squarespace. It was like squaresapsy.co. And then I cloned a site from them. I cloned the main site, and I put that on the main document root. And then I made this secondary like page, and then I put that in like /certificates, and I disguised it as two-way SSL. And I sent him a fish that said something to the effect of, we at Squarespace take security seriously, and to make sure that you're a journalist and you have a verified profile on both Facebook and Twitter, and like your high profile, if somebody were to gain access to your account or your blog, really bad things could happen. So we want to take an extra step in making sure that your infrastructure is secure. We've configured your account in such a way where only people that have this certificate, which we're giving to you, and you can feel free to distribute if you'd like, can have access to the blog editor. So the only people that can edit your blog are people that have this cert. So run this installer. We've made it completely painless. You just run this thing, it dumps the cert into your cert store, and everybody's happy. And I sent I'm sweating bullets, and I send in the email, and like 10 minutes later, a shell comes in, and I'm like, yes! I do this. Like, this is what it feels like right here. Right? That. And I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but like every gig I'm on, I've been doing this for years, but the first shell, yes. Right? But I land on a Mac. Right? So none of my post stuff is there. And I'm like, what? So like, no webcam, no keylog, no interpreter, no pivoting, no automated persistence, no Mimikatz, none of the cool, awesome shit we use on gigs all the time. It's just not there. Right, so I have to do it all by hand. Fine, so I'm doing it all by hand. So I had to go and look up all this stuff. So Macs don't have cron. Okay, well, that's sort of a lie. They do have cron, but you have to turn it on, and turning it on is a giant pain in the ass, and you have to have a root for that. So you can't use cron, but you can use plists, and plists are basically just like XML documents you could dump into the Mac's launch control. So you make a plist document that says, run this shell script every 5 minutes, and you send it in. And now you basically have cron. So now you have a shell script that's doing anything you want, whatever's in the script, every 5 minutes. Like running Meterpreter, which I learned after a day was a bad idea because I woke up one morning to like 600 shells from this poor guy. As it turns out, if you have 600 shells on one Mac, it starts to break Python. Like Python stops functioning correctly. And later in the talk, I actually have the error, and I'll show it to you guys. So you get these bizarre system I/O problems, and they're undiagnosable apparently. And I was unable to reproduce it. Sadly, I couldn't reproduce it for this specific slide. I wanted to show you guys a fresh one. But so I had to figure out like, oh shit, what do I do? I have like 600 shells. If I start causing stability problems, he's obviously going to know I'm there. Like, you can't just reboot this guy's Mac and be like, lol, reboot, and he won't think, it's fine, you know. Which it gets so much more colorful, just wait. But, so I ended up getting to a point where I'm like, I have to go and manually kill Meterpreter like 3 times a day. And at some point I said, you know what, screw it, this is dumb. I'm gonna break things out. So I had one plist that was doing like the main body of work, which I'll get into in a minute. And then another one that only fired like once every couple hours, and the one that was firing once every couple hours was the one that was giving me my persistence shell, just Meterpreter over and over and over again. So then I'd only have to go clean shells out once a day and not like 6 times a day. So I ended up learning that you can do a whole bunch of really cool stuff. You can get GPX coordinates, which I have a demo of. You can do webcam snapshots, and oh my god, OSA scripting. If you guys don't know what OSA scripting is, oh my god, I'm going to show you guys a new toy, and it's amazing. So what I ended up doing was, I am no dev, again, I'm certainly no front-end dev, was I basically had these shell scripts running a bunch of commands like screen capture -x and spitting out a JPEG, and then just using curl to post the JPEG up to some really shit PHP gallery that I found on the internet somewhere every 2 minutes for like a week. So the cool part is, like, I know everything about this poor guy now. I mean, I know that he was like going to bed watching Chopped. Like, he'd turn on Netflix and turn on Chopped, then go to bed, because all the screenshots would be like Chopped, 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 screensaver, 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 then it would go black and the Mac would go to sleep. So I'm like, I'll get into it, but like, oh my god. So when you get to this point, you have to, scale sort of becomes an issue, because now you have like 6,000 or 7,000 photos of this poor guy. And this crap gallery that I have was written in like PHP and JavaScript, and it wasn't made to deal with 6,000 photos. So every time I hit refresh, it would be like a 4-minute wait time while the JavaScript and PHP worked together to go build the back end of the gallery and show me these images. And then, you know, these are the full images just scaled down, so it's not like they're thumbnails. It took forever to load, so like pulling data down at like a megasecond or whatever. So this is amazing. So OSA script, this is entirely fuzzy nops thing. And you can tell OS X to pop an app and to display a dialog that asks the user for input, and you can have that dialog box say anything you want. Like, if the people that use 1Password in the room, that is not a legit 1Password dialog box at all. But you can pop that on a machine, and it will return in text to you what people typed in. So once you get a shell on somebody's machine, on a Mac, you have generally an unprivileged shell. You don't have the credentials, you don't have access to their password store or anything like that. You can do this, and then you do. So the good stuff, right, let me play the song of my people. One of the first things I started doing was so there's this really, really long command that you can, or it's buried in this directory. There's an airport binary. And if you're at the command line in OS X, you can run this airport binary and it will just spit out what SSIDs it can see, which is really great because if you know what those are, you can just go to wiggle.net and look up the MAC address. And if somebody's been war driving and has found that MAC address, now you have their physical location to within maybe 100 meters or something like that. So like if they're in a building and the war driver was on the street or whatever, you might know maybe what building they're in, but that's about it, right? So that's really handy. You can get physical location by just getting Wi-Fi info. You can, for example, loot their entire Dropbox, and that has a lot of interesting things. And you can see down here I also added a user for myself. Here's a great one. Grab the keychains, because the keychains on the system are encrypted using their login credential. So if you phish them using that guy, if you phish them with that, but you say like system preferences needs your password to continue or whatever, you get their local password, then you can jump to here, decrypt their login keychain, and that has all their passwords, even better. And you do the same thing with one password, and then that's even fun. But you see that error in the middle of that std API fs stat operation failed Python exception OS error? That's the error that you get if you have 600 shells on somebody's machine. It just starts to break. So this actually is really, really neat. C. Nelson showed this to me. Core Location Service has an API that, I mean, it started out, I guess, on the iPhone, because back when the iPhones didn't have GPS, you could somehow do GPS. And what they did was effectively what Google Maps did is they subscribed to a company called Skyhook, and what Skyhook did was send trucks all around the United States and do war driving, and they found out what access points were where. So Skyhook looks at, I mean, exactly what I was doing by hand. They looks at all the SSIDs that your device can see, submits them up, and then it does triangulation on its back end and says, oh, based on what access points you can see, you have to be in this circle, and then send you back like generic, sort of general GPS coordinates. But I was unaware that you could do this on a Mac. Like, I thought this was just limited to phones. It turns out you can actually, it turns out you can actually do that, and I actually have a very quick demo of that, which I'd like to show. Because it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually like show you guys, because holy crap. So, check this out. I did last night in the form of booze. All right, so you run that, just start spitting out GPS coordinates. All right, so let's see if those are accurate. So here's my cursor. So Control C, and then make it bigger. That's what she said. Bam. So here. Does that work? Shut. No. But yeah, so like you have these, right? There's the coordinates. So we can copy, and then we can see if those are anywhere accurate. Paste that into Google Maps, and Google Maps tells us we're within a block. So like, when I saw this, I kind of squealed. I may have pooped a little bit. I'm like, I can do that. Holy, you can't do that on, I don't think you can do that on Windows. Holy crap. So like, turns out, if you actually get stuck in and you get elbow deep in a Mac, you can do some gnarly shit. Like, this is amazing. Yeah. So let's see, let me go back to my silly talk. Where are we? Here. So, right, so that's basically what I'm saying, like, hacking team in the NSA got it right. If you have physical location and you can get camera pictures and desktop pictures and keylog, that's practically more than you need, or more than you would get out of a shell, because like, sure, you can do some neat stuff in a shell, but this is like zero touch. You just set this thing going and you get like this. I'm like, here's a producer for a media outlet talking to one of his colleagues about an unreleased piece of video that's on Vimeo, and it's like, the password is password, and I'm like, thank you. Like, I can see unreleased stuff, right? Here's one where at one point I started trying to figure out what I could do to mess with them a little bit, because like theatrics are how non-technical people remember these sorts of engagements, and this is how you get the memories to stick, right? So in this case, I started using the say command while he was doing stuff. Like I was watching him on a camera, and I started using the say command to make his laptop shout at him. And at one point, it was like, it must have been 2 a.m. for him, and he's like sat in his mother's living room at a dinner table, like doing work or something, and he's got a hat on, and he's got the soda, and he's drinking, and I had his Mac say, hey, you look bored. And he said he nearly jumped out of his skin afterwards, because like the volume was all the way up, and he wasn't paying attention, and all of a sudden his Mac is like, hey, you look bored. So that, but yeah, and then I was telling Kashmir on the backside the whole stuff. I was like showing her screenshots and giving her like a play-by-play, and she's like, you're so screwed. But yeah, like these are screenshots that I got from the gig, and like it's so much more valuable, so much more, you can get so much more intelligence out of screenshots than apparently you can out of a shell. This is a fun one. What do you see? If I were to say that these photos were taken exactly at the same time, one through the webcam, one via the of the desktop, like just yeah. Dude left his machine unlocked and unattended in a coffee shop somewhere. And now I have like an idea of, right? And I have an idea of like how long that happens. So like if you have a corporate policy where like your laptops are supposed to go home with you and you're not supposed to leave them at work, or you have certain policies about like, I worked for Twitter for a while, and we had a whole string of these different things like this is what your policy is in terms of like where you can take your computer and how you operate with it and when it's locked and when it's unlocked and who can touch it and where it can go and all that sort of stuff. So like, I'm not sure if his organization has these policies or not, but you know, that tells you something like, dude, leaves his shit unlocked. So if you're physically near him, like I knew where he was because I had GPS coordinates of where his laptop was, and it's like, now I know all the stuff about him, and in addition, I also have his physical location, and I know he leaves his shit unlocked. So I'm like, I have 2 rubber duckies on my keychain, like now. Like, it should just be trivial, just click. I mean, not like I didn't have the thing shelled inside out to begin with, but in the event that I didn't, like, I could have somebody else go do that or something. And then this was my favorite. Him composing an email to me that starts with the words, oh fuck. This right here made the whole thing worth it, right? So if there are any 1Password users in the room, 1Password, and I think they may have killed this because I've tried it, I tried to get better screenshots for this demo and I couldn't. There's a thing that 1Password either used to do or still does called 1Password Anywhere. And if you sync 1Password with Dropbox, what it does is it writes a bunch of stuff to your Dropbox, one of the bits of stuff being an HTML page that using JavaScript will decrypt and let you into your password vault, which you can just phish somebody for. Like you can use OSAScript to say, hey, give me your creds, and they go, lol, okay. But you go into 1Password and you have not just passwords, but you have like a grocery list of every site that they're storing credentials for, and in this case, like even more additional credentials, like all sorts of personal information, credit card number, social security number, like all the stuff was in there. And I'm like, wow, that's totally not passwords. That's interesting that it's there. I mean, I guess I could see, you know, wanting to be able to copy paste it, but you know, how many times do you copy paste it until you commit it to memory? I don't know. But anyhow, one of the things he had in there was Dropcam, and I was like, oh, I had no idea he had Dropcam. So we found his house, and I logged into his PayPal account to get his address. And then I found his address, and I sent Kashmir there with a big fucking sign that says, Vis says hi. And like, and we left the sign for him, or she left the sign for him at his house as a gift. So when he got back from work that day, there's just this rolled up piece of paper, and he was like, what the hell is this? Oh, right? So, in hindsight, right, if I could do this all again, just as an aside, the quality of your presentation hinges entirely on the quality of animated GIFs you use in your talk. Just saying. It is good to keep a healthy stock of animated GIFs. Anyhow, in hindsight, scale matters. Like if you have 7,000 photos of some people or a place you're surveilling, you have to know how to deal with them. Like one thing that you want to avoid, for example, is having a curious developer finding your stash of photos of him, because that goes sideways quickly. OPSEC matters. Like if you're leaving a bunch of shell scripts in somebody's home directory or on somewhere else on their Mac, and they find them, it's sort of like really obvious what's going on. Turning off directory indexing on the web server that you're hosting all these images on helps. If you can, like, obfuscate things. Yes, I don't think Let's Encrypt was around last year during DEF CON time. It may have shown up afterwards, or maybe I'm completely talking out my ass and it was and I just didn't know. But, say again? Oh, okay, yeah, so limited beta. So not everybody had it. But nowadays, you just use Let's Encrypt and you just wrap everything in SSL because they can't packet sniff. And if they do, they just see like you're talking to this host and maybe this file or this host and that's it, and they can't tell. So again, like NSA and hacking team are actually onto something, and using a surveillance kit instead of your typical exploit kit gives you very, very rich intel and very, very rich data. So in terms of expansion, there were a couple of tools I mentioned in the beginning that have come out since I started working on this thing. One of them is, I guess, Poopy. I asked on Twitter. Yes, it's actually pronounced Poopy. Okay, I was calling it Puppy, but whatever. Anyway, so Poopy is another, what? Poopy is, yes, it's a legit security tool. I'm a professional. Oh my God. Yeah, it's Poopy. And then the other one is called Empire. And Empire, the correct spelling of Empire is a PowerShell toolkit that's used to attack Windows. Empire spelled this way is basically the same backend framework, but designed specifically to target Macs, and it's got some post. What? Empire, yes, Empire Strikes Mac. That's good. But yeah, these only recently came out. They weren't available in the past. And what you can do is you can use DTC2 as a dropper for both of these payloads, because those payloads are all exploitation and persistence, and my toolkit is mainly surveillance. So if you combine the two of them, you get everything. And Poopy is very, very, well, Poopy was September last year, like it came out after DEF CON, and Empire it's literally, this thing is brand new, it's like 2 or 3 weeks old. So again, yes, it is pronounced Poopy. So thank you to these people who helped me get this gig done. C. Nelson for the core location service wizardry, and Fuzzy Knop for the amazing OSAScript stuff. I basically blatantly ripped him off. He did help during the gig too, so that was really awesome. I owe him many, many beers. And OJ for helping me sanity check my crap and the logic of like getting this stuff to talk back and forth. And obviously Kevin for basically letting me splash around in his life like a kid in a puddle. So that being said, I think my slide decks are normally 150 slides, and I'm normally screaming about stuff on Shodan. So this is shorter than I was expecting. I got a lot of room for questions and answers or hate, or if you guys want to throw knives at me or something. Anything? Anybody? No? Questions?
How often do you play?
How often do I play with Poopy? I did enjoy playing with Poopy. I enjoyed playing with Poopy. It was good. Go for it.
Was this turned into like a journalistic feature that he put out? Was his reaction?
Oh, so so this whole endeavor was there was a documentary that was put out early this year called Fusion's Real Future, and I was in the 8th episode, and it was an episode where Kevin Roos asked myself and another hacker guy to basically take him apart as best we could, and then he interviewed us on the first day of DEF CON last year, and I was on the video for maybe 3 minutes, and in that 3 minutes, there were audio bites of me saying things like, I could have made you homeless, I could have bankrupted you, I could have sold your house under you, because basically I said, given the amount of intelligence and information that I was able to extract out of all of your screenshots and 1Password and all of the stuff, I could have easily and more than adequately impersonated you for any business transaction, any transaction that requires, I could have remortgaged your house. I mean, I had this whole long list. I even included stuff saying like I could have probably made you kill yourself, I could have done other stuff, but they cut all that because it was a little scary. Yeah, so that's, if you go and search on YouTube for Fusion's Real Future, I'm in the 8th episode, and you can see like there's a lot more girth in this presentation than there was in the actual, yeah, right, lol. Anyhow, but yeah, and I should probably like put it up somewhere, because I just now realized I didn't actually put it in the deck, because I'm a tard. Let's see. So it's on GitHub, and you can clone it. It's GitHub/phobosgroup/DTC2, but it's live, and you can clone it, and like all the example stuff is in here, and like a walkthrough of all the files and everything that it does. So like, take it, clone it, like laugh at me and make fun of how bad of a developer I am, or scream at me about GitHub etiquette because I don't know how to GitHub. But yeah, grab it, clone it, do stuff like give me pull requests, help me make it more interesting. Like my intention here is to help build this to be a legit, actually like interesting toolkit to use for Macs, because up until very recently, like there was nothing. And now there's some stuff, but it's not exactly what I'm doing. So yeah, I should leave that there, but yeah, fun times. Questions? Any more stuff? No? Yes? Go for it.
Would you classify this as a cyber-physical event?
Would I classify this as a cyber-physical event? What's the difference between cyber-physical and cyber? As a 90s child, I'm torn. Like, every time people ask, what? What the ASL? You're looking at me. But I could be hiding. OPSEC. Yeah, it's true, I might be lying. Yes. Well, anyhow, it sounds like I'm done, and you guys don't have any more questions, so I'll give you back 20 minutes of your life. Thank you. Max. Yes, next time I should. Cool. Oh, here.
Hey guys, so this talk ended a little bit early, so go check out all the villages, play some contests. The next talk starts at 1500, so you got about 20 minutes, and have fun.